My computer recognized the mic. It was on, the light was on. I could see it as a microphone in Device Manager. But for some reason, the BEACN app did not recognize its own hardware. What's up, ladies and gents? Welcome back to the channel. My name is Francisco, and today we're going to be talking about the Beacn microphone. We're going to go ahead and talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly because there is quite a bit to talk about here. So without further ado, let's go. So in regards to build, this is an all-metal USB dynamic microphone. This thing has a very top quality premium build and feel to it, as it should, because it also comes at a premium price. We have a nice little LED RGB light ring here at the center of the microphone that you can change the color for through the Beacn app itself. You can't tell. I don't know why, but you cannot tell. But right now I have it set to purple. But on camera right now, it looks like it's white, but it's purple. I promise you it's purple, okay? It's very sturdy. It's very well designed. I love the mounting options that it has. You have a bottom screw here at the bottom of the stand itself to screw it into the boom arm of your choosing. And then there's another notch right above that screw where it allows you to swivel and turn the microphone without having to unscrew the entire mic off of the boom arm that you put it on. Some other quality of life features that I really enjoy about this microphone are the cable management clip that it has included here. So typically, you would have two different cables coming from the back of the microphone. You've got the USB-C cable that powers and transmits all the data from the microphone itself because the DSP is in the microphone itself. And then you potentially would also have the extending aux cord that comes included with the package connected to the back. So you got two cables. And instead of having these two cables just kind of flying around, flailing around like crazy, there's a clip attached to the stand of the microphone that you can neatly plug both of those cables into so that they have a nice little loop going on and they look very clean and very presentable, and I absolutely love that. When you're looking at it as far as cost is concerned, being that it's a $280 microphone, I feel like this thing is built like a $280 microphone. I've got zero complaints there. So with that being said, let's move on to the next thing. Okay, so let's go ahead and get right into the Beacn app, because once you've got the microphone plugged in and ready to go, you're going to have to download the app in order to really take full advantage of what the microphone has to offer. And it has quite a bit to offer. So first off, you're going to see that you're going to be able to set your gain over here, right here to the bottom left corner. Right now, I've got my gain set to 12 decibels. As you're setting your gain, one of the trickier things in microphone setups is understanding how much gain is too much gain and how much gain is too little gain. And Beacn and the Beacn app makes that a lot easier. As you can see down here, you have an indicator that tells you if your gain is too high, you're going to go over into the peaking area, which is this yellow bar that you see. And ideally, you want to be somewhere in a speaking area right here where the teal is. So right now, for example, if I were to take it, this is going to get a little loud, by the way, so just be ready. If I'm going to take this from 12 decibels, we're going to go up to 18 decibels, then you're going to go ahead and see that I'm going to start peaking now, and it's probably going to sound really bad. So we're going to go ahead and bring it back down to 12. And now we should be back to how it was when I first started the video. So at 12 decibels, you can see that there's very few instances where I'm probably going to peak, but for the most part, I'm standing steady right here in the speaking area, which is great. So now that you've got your gain set up and hopefully you're hanging out here in the teal area, the speaking area, the next thing you're probably going to want to mess around with is going to be your EQ, which is this portion of the screen right here at the top. Traditionally, EQ can be intimidating for most users, especially if you're new and you don't really understand what you're doing. Don't feel bad if that is you, because believe me, I've been there and I was there for a long time. But thankfully, both Elgato and Beacn have made it significantly, exponentially easier to equalize your microphone, because before these two companies came about, you had to know some way or another what you were affecting in regards to your voice when you started playing around with all these different frequencies. Not everybody knows that. Not everybody wants to invest the time into researching it and understanding it. So they went ahead and made it easy. And if you simply click the guide button, boom, the Beacn app will now tell you what it is that you're affecting in regards to your voice as you manipulate the equalization of the microphone itself. For example, if I were to change anything up in this range of frequencies right here from 50 to 100, I am affecting the sub bass of my voice. From 100 to 250, 300, 400, the bass and the muddiness. From about 450 to about, I don't know, I'd say 800 right here, you're affecting the broadcast sound of your voice. The nasal sound, the low and mids and highs and S's, and of course the highs and the airiness of your voice. Now I'm going to tell you right now, one key rule of EQ is cut first before you add. So you usually will start out with a flat EQ line. If you feel like your microphone is too bassy or too broadcasty, don't add highs. The first thing you're going to want to do is actually cut the bassiness and the broadcast down first to see if that works. At that point, if that doesn't work, then you start adding a little bit at a time, but don't just go massively start adding, 10 decibels of bass and sub bass. It's going to sound terrible. Trust me. That's not where this stops though, because again, this application has a whole lot to offer in regards to really customizing what your microphone will sound like. So here you're going to see that every band that you add, you can change the kind of band it is, from a bell, low shelf, low pass, notch, high shelf, and a high pass band. Click on hold each band and move up and down side to side. Or if you want to get a very finite level, you can also mess with it right over here. You do have a de-esser that is included into it. If you don't know what a de-esser is, basically de-essers help manage the sharpness and the aggressiveness of your S's and T's and your P's and C's, right? They just kind of dull them down a little bit so they're not so sharp and aggressive in your audio. You have bass enhancements and you have an exciter. As if that's not enough, we go over here to the noise suppression tab and you're going to see noise suppression right here. You got a snapshot and you have adaptive. So snapshot basically says, hey, be quiet for like 30 seconds. Let the mic pick out the ambient noise that is in your recording environment, and it's going to designate a certain level of noise suppression so that everything that is going on in your environment doesn't get picked up into the mic. If you do adaptive, adaptive will constantly change as you are recording in your environment to constantly adapt to the environment. I prefer snapshot because I work in a very controlled environment. Here we have an expander. Now, an expander is something I've never seen before. I've never heard of it until I started using this application. And this is basically what it is. If you've used a noise gate in the past, if you set your thresholds incorrectly, you might notice that the capsule of the gate doesn't open quickly enough to capture the first syllable or two of whatever word it is that you're using. So it results in like cut up speech, which sounds awful and you don't want that in your recordings or in your streams. What an expander basically does, it almost smooths things out and you kind of determine how, I don't know this for a fact, but the best way I can explain is that it basically, you determine how smooth of an opening and closing it is. It's not as abrupt as it is with a noise gate. And after using an expander this whole time, I got to tell you, I would much rather use an expander over a noise gate now, because even though I start speaking a little quietly, it does manage the opening and closing of the gate of the capsule itself much better than with no expander at all. And instead of using a noise gate, where a noise gate could result in cut up speech, which is, again, terrible. Of course, we have compression. And one of the really cool things is, of course, you can hook up your headset to the microphone itself. But not only that, you can EQ your headset and you can also determine the amount of amp power that your headset gets. So for those of you who use really fancy audiophile headsets, you actually might be able to legitimately power them through the Beacn microphone and the Beacn app itself. The best thing I can tell you with this application is that it's going to take you a little bit of time to get used to it. Dedicate some time, learn the ins and outs of it. And once you get it down to where you want it to be, you can get some really, really good sound out of the microphone. So with the app out of the way, let's move on, shall we? So now that you got the microphone set up through the Beacn app the way that you want it to, now you have a little bit of a better understanding of how the app works. Let's go ahead and dive into the sound of the microphone. We're going to basically test it out and see how it sounds raw, how it sounds with my settings, and then we're also going to compare it to a couple of other microphones that I have here in my setup. So what you're listening to right now is the Beacn Mic Raw. Got it plugged in, got the app running, no EQ, no noise suppression, no expanders, no compressors, nothing. The only change I've done is that I've increased the gain to 12 decibels like it was in my earlier portions of this video. And now what you're hearing is the Beacn microphone with my EQ setup that I use, with the expander, with compression, with noise suppression and everything else turned on, set up the way that I feel works for me in my recording environment and my expectations. And now, ladies and gents, this is the Rode PROCASTER XLR dynamic microphone running through my Wave XLR audio interface by Elgato. And I wanted to do this one because I wanted you to get an idea of what this dynamic XLR microphone would sound like, which is now, I believe, about $180 plus the cost of the audio interface, versus a USB dynamic microphone that comes in at about $280. I'll have the math and the price comparisons, of course, running throughout the screen so you can see, but I wanted you to have an idea of what an XLR dynamic mic would sound like potentially against a USB dynamic microphone. Let's keep going. All right, ladies and gents, and now we are using the FIFINE K688 USB/XLR dynamic microphone, and this is what this microphone would sound like. All right, ladies and gents, and this is the Elgato Wave DX, Elgato's very first and very own dynamic XLR microphone running through the Elgato Wave XLR. This is what it sounds like. Now, I realized that not every one of these microphones were USB mics. As a matter of fact, I believe the only one was the FIFINE K688, which is a hybrid USB and XLR mic. But I just wanted to highlight the options that you would have out there when thinking about purchasing the Beacn mic versus some other options within the same price points, or at least within the same total cost. So tell me, what did you think? Which one did you like more? Did any of them sound better, sound worse, just as good? Would you go with the Beacn mic over any of the other microphones? Let me know in the comments below. And if you already have a Beacn mic, you know, what are your thoughts on it so far? Do you enjoy what you're getting out of it? Do you enjoy the software and the hardware itself? And while you're kind of typing that up, let's go ahead and get into some of the issues that I've had using this microphone, more specifically the software, and go into our final thoughts. So one of the things I want to warn you about when you're considering and buying this microphone is that although the hardware is fantastic, the software can be quite problematic at times. When I got the mic and the mix create from Beacn, the first couple times that I used the setup, it worked flawlessly. And then after that, I started experiencing some pretty crippling issues. Specifically with the app would crash and it would freeze. And the worst part of that is that it would crash and freeze and completely undo and delete all of my settings and profiles. About a week into November or the week before November, last week of October, a new version of the app was released, which addressed a whole bunch of these issues. And I started having a lot more stability when using the app and the microphone. Right now, we're almost done with the month of November. And just when I thought I was free and clear of any issues with the Beacn mic and the Beacn app, the day that I attempted to start recording this video, which was about a week and a half ago, I started experiencing some weird issues. Again, the microphone for some reason basically stopped being recognized by the app. My computer recognized the mic, it was on, the light was on, I could see it as a microphone in Device Manager, but for some reason the Beacn app did not recognize its own hardware. I wish I could tell you how and or why, but for some reason one day I opened up the app, plugged in the mic again, and boom, it was working fine, and it's still working fine to this very moment. But if you go out there and you buy this microphone because you've seen this video and plenty of others and you made the decision to get it, I'm gonna give you some advice. I'm not gonna tell you to stay away because I don't think you should stay away. I think that you should buy this cautiously. And what I mean by that is that if you buy this, make sure that whatever retailer you're buying it from, be it in a brick and mortar store or an online retailer, make sure they have a solid return policy. And I mean literally one where you could either get all of your money back or an entirely different product altogether, because this setup, specifically the app itself, is just very picky as to what build it decides to work with and what build it will not work with. So you're taking a bit of a risk, but let me tell you this, in taking that risk, if you buy this setup, and it works just fine for you on your build, in your system, and in your environment, in your recording studio, whatever you want to call it, this is a solid microphone. I think this microphone can sound really great. I think there's a lot of different tools, bells and whistles that the Beacn app has to offer to really give you, the creator, a level of control that not too many other competitors out there offer when it comes to getting the sound that you want from your microphone. So as far as do I recommend the microphone? Yes, I do recommend this microphone, but I recommend it with caution. I hope you all found the review helpful. I hope you found the video informative. If you did, do me a favor. Like, subscribe, hit that bell for notifications. Let your friends know if there's anybody out there that you know that is looking for a microphone this holiday season. Have them check out the video. Until next time, be good to yourselves, be good to one another. Peace out.